Namaste. I'm Jaya Palashri. A warm welcome to each and every one of you. I'm here today talking again about change. My series about change, the things that I've done, the various hiccups I had. Before I start, I thank you all for the beautiful and positive feedback that I have been receiving. And some of the feedback is really overwhelming. I didn't expect to get so much of feedback, and I didn't expect so many people to reach out to me saying this is resonating, or I went through this, or I know what I'm going to go through. I've had a lot of those kind of messages pouring to me. I thank you all more than anything. But once again, I take no credit. Yes, it was my experience, but I am only speaking because I was nudged to and asked to speak and to share by my guides. It is absolutely divine will, and I'm happy to be of service and a conduit to the divine, passing on messages. So as I continue, I was talking about change. I was talking about the various hiccups we go through. We are never prepared for change. No matter how much we say, how much we speak, we are not able to do it. And I also spoke about me being a healer, being a shaman, how I broke down into pieces when I had my son move on. So after saying all that, and after going through what I did, and I did speak about how I worked on myself with healing, and how I healed myself and then healed my family, my husband, my children. So as I did these things and moved on with healing and facing life as it moves forward, it took all about 3 to 4 days, and I was onto my routine, my normal patterns. And as I went on with my patterns, my regular routine, and put things in order as to how I need to move forward and what I need to do, I started accepting the change, which was inevitable. It was bound to happen. I was prepared, but I did go through what I had to go through. But I started dealing with it, and I started looking forward to the point that I was going to be going there soon to settle my son and put things in place for him. So I was looking forward to that aspect of mine, and I was excited and started preparing for my travel. I was distracted with it, and I was moving ahead to go for my travel and put things together. Now, at this key moment of my life, with what I went through, I had my family with me, but my bigger pillar of support with my family were my friends. My friends were everything, and my friends stood by me. My friends supported me. My friends became my shoulder, my pillar of pillar of strength, yes, but my support pillar would be a right word. And they were checking on me on regular basis to see how I was doing, how I was holding up. And I had one of my friends tell me that I know you're very strong, and I knew you would bounce back. It was just a matter of time before you would be back on your feet, and before you would go back into your routine. My friends had a lot of faith and trust in me. I think they had more trust and faith in me than what I had on myself, which is in a way nice, that they knew that I could do it. They knew that I could bounce back and be back on my feet. Now, once I was back on my feet and I started going about my routine, I did accept the fact that my younger child is not there at home. And I started going about my routine, keeping that in mind. Though I went about my routine, though I went about everything, there was that space, that vacuum, the point where I didn't have to think about cooking for him, or getting things organized for him, or waking him up to do something, or nudging to check where he is. So those things started kind of bothering me, and it was kind of, the wound is there, and there is something which is constantly scratching the wound, and that is what this was bothering me like. But anyway, my routine went on, everything went beautifully. I did have one of my friends sit and talk to me because she also had her kids, going abroad and how difficult it was. And she started preparing me and she started telling me that life changes and you have to be prepared for how things happen and how things are going to go forward. I had my guides through and through with me, and like how I stated, it was not my hallucination. Obviously, I'm not under any medication. So I had my guides nudging me, telling me to give space, to set boundaries, to respect, to understand, and let my child live his dreams. So with all this happening in my space, I very gradually moved from a space of denial, saying this is not happening, to, okay, now this has happened, now what do I do? How do I let go? How do I move forward? How do I accept the change? How do I respect the change? How do I respect boundaries? So I had a whole lot of things happening in my space, and the days started nearing for me to be taking the flight to go meet my son. My son was very excited to see me, and I had timed it in a way where I would be there for his birthday. But I started having mixed feelings because I was leaving my other son and husband back at home, and that became equally difficult for me. So at one point, my younger boy says, "Aren't you excited that you're coming and you're going to be seeing me in a matter of a day?" And I said, "No, I'm not, because you are excited to seeing me, but I'm torn between you and my family back home, and the feeling is not very pleasant." Now, having said that, he said, "Okay, whatever, but I'm very happy to see you." I felt very bad that I said that to him. But the fact is, I was torn between the two facts, and I'm very open with my conversation with my children. So, all set, all ready, I head to the airport. My boy is really excited, and he's messaging me saying, "I'm looking forward to seeing you this evening. You're going to be up at this time, and by then I would have finished my university, and I'll be back to meet you," and things like that. He said, "I'll try to come to the airport." And he said, "But I'm not sure whether my professor would give me permission to come." So I get onto the flight. I'm feeling very lonely. I see a lot of business travelers. I see a lot of parents with young children, and I go back into my own space of thinking of my travel with my young ones. And I never knew a day would come where I would be traveling all alone to meet one of my child, and not be traveling as a family. So I was just looking at everything. I was just lost in my own world. And when the flight was announced and we boarded, and I settled in, I was pretty emotional. And I had this lovely, pleasant lady who came and sat by my next seat. So we smiled at each other, and we acknowledged each other and wished each other, and we also wished each other a safe flight. She started speaking to me, and she asked me what brings me onto this travel. And I told her that why I was traveling, and then she was speaking about her reason, and she was going to meet her son. And I laughed and I said, "Oh wow, even I'm going to meet my son." So we started exchanging notes and speaking about our children, and she realized it was my son's first thing, and I was going to go see him. So she realized why I was in that feeling of what I was in. So anyway, we had a good chat. After we finished talking, we kind of obviously drifted into our own world. When the flight was about to land, she said, "So is your son coming to pick you up?" I felt heavy in my heart because I knew my child can't come because he was in his university. And by then I'd seen a message from him where he had said, I'd taken the Wi-Fi on board, and I'd seen a message from him saying that I won't be able to come to the airport. And then she told me her son is coming to pick her up. I had a very heavy heart because things were changing and changing rapidly. And I said, "Oh no, my son will not be able to come because he's at college. So I'm going to meet him back at, we were staying at a hotel because we needed to finalize a place for him. I said, I'm going to meet him back at the hotel." And after bidding bye to her, we cleared immigration, and I saw her son there, and at a distance I had heaviness in my heart. Not because I wish her well, I'm so happy that she had her son to come pick her up, but I just missed that in my space. But I cannot be selfish, and I cannot say that, "Oh, she had it and I don't have it." That's not me, and I would never do that. I smiled, I greeted her, wished her, and wished her happy holidays, and I went on my way. I had my my driver waiting to pick me up at the airport. So I headed out. I messaged my boy and he said that he's in the class and he's going to take some time. Disappointed. It was quite a long drive. Reached the hotel and all alone. I had to do all the formalities. Finished everything. Put the clothes, put my luggage in. Looked around and I realized that he had nothing in his room. I can't expect anything more because he just moved in and it was just about 2 weeks since he was there. I can't expect him to prepare or keep things, though I'd given him a list, just keep certain things. Nothing was kept. I was not surprised at all. And I just laughed to myself, picked up my bag, and I thought, before I settle, let me just go to the nearest supermarket and pick up whatever needs to be picked up. And I came out, asked for a taxi, and they said you can just walk up. It's just 10 minutes by walk of something. Came onto the thing and I realized I'm in a foreign land all by myself. Half of my family is sitting in India, and the other part who I've come to see is busy in his life, not even realizing that he has to be there for me and that it's equally emotional for me. I was just overwhelmed with the whole thing. I went, and again in the supermarket, I was seeing children, I was seeing mothers, and I was seeing young teenage boys with their parents. I missed it. I missed it a lot because I was all alone doing the shopping. It really was a difficult point, and I was like, okay, now pull up your socks, my dear girl. You have a long road ahead before you head back to India, and you need to face things as it comes, and not like look at everything and start getting, oh, this is not going to happen. You need to pull your socks up and move. So by the time, because I was overwhelmed, I was emotional, and everything that I looked at was bringing tears to my eyes. I took that much more time to even pick up my things in the supermarket, all my grocery, whatever I wanted. Picked everything up. What had to be about 30 minutes of my shopping ended up to being about an hour and a half. So by the time I came out, it was all getting dark, and I realized there's no way I'm going to walk back with these bags. For my luck, there was a taxi which pulled up into the curb. I walked up and asked if he can drop me. He was kind enough. He saw that I was rattled, and he said, sure, I would drop you, and it's going to cost so much. And I was like, it's okay, just drop me to the, to my address. And I just got into the car, and I saw a text from my son saying he's boarding the train to come meet me, and I was like, okay, by the time he comes, I will just arrange everything and quickly have a shower, and we can spend the evening together. Whatever I was planning, whatever I was doing, things were just happening differently, and that was something which I just couldn't understand. And I just couldn't understand the point. Listen, girl, you need to let go. You cannot control anything anymore. You have given him the key. He's opened the door and he's taken the flight. Now, either you just watch and go about your life, or you're going to be suffering and going to be in pain more. Saying that to myself, I kind of finished. I went in for my shower, and by the time I could finish my shower, my boy came. And I said, you know what, I've got this for dinner, I've got this, shall we have this, shall we have that? And we are not going to be having that or this. He had some other commitment, if I recollect. There was something that was going to happen, and he said, no, I've just come, we'll step out for dinner. And so my entire plan went for a flop. So, but anyway, I quickly got dressed. I was exhausted, and he said, you can't be so, like, I can't do it, this, that. So I just pushed myself, pepped myself up, motivated myself to get dressed. We went out for dinner. We came back, and he said, what's your plan for the next day? And then he said, come into town with me, and this is my routine, see what you want to do, and things like that. So we woke up next morning, and there were two options which he gave me. He said, either you come with me at 8:30 and we set out together, or you leave by 10:30 and you come. And he said, this is the way you come, and this is the train you take and everything. I looked at him, and trust me, I was scared. I just felt the roles had reversed, and I was the kid who was scared and not confident of doing something, and he, whereas, had taken charge of his life, and he was also taking charge of my life. I was blank. I just sat in complete blankness, and I just went into an autopilot mode again. And I told him, I said, no, I'll come with you. And I got up early. I have my pujas, I have my meditation. I finished everything, got ready, well before my time. Quickly had breakfast along with him, and rushed out by 8:30. We reached, and he said, okay, Mom, you get off here, and you be here. You go about your day, and if possible, I'll meet you for lunch. You tell me where you are. If not, in the evening, you're going to, you take this train and you're going to go back, and please take a taxi. Don't walk back by yourself. I'm going to be coming late. I felt very, very lonely, thinking I've crossed the continent, I've traveled and come. What am I doing all alone over here? I could have been back home with my other child and husband, whereas this boy's already living his life. Saying that to myself, it's not like this city was new to me. I've been there umpteen number of times, but nevertheless I felt very lonely, very, very isolated and scared. Scared for myself, because I didn't know what I want to do with my life. But now I had to kill about 2 months there, and what am I going to do? Do I just prepone my ticket and take the next flight out? I was not ready for these kind of things in this whole entire transition of change. What is it that I'm going to do? What am I going to, how am I going to withstand? Saying that to myself, I walked up to one of the cafes and sat down for a cup of tea. Made a call to one of my friend, and I started cribbing, saying, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I've come. This is not what I wanted to do. This is not what I expected. I expected to spend time with him. His birthday is around the corner. I wanted to take him shopping, and I went on and on and on and on. And that poor lady heard me out. And something else came up. She got another call, and she disconnected, saying she's going to call me back. After that, I was just sitting all by myself. There were a lot of couples, single people sitting there reading newspapers. They're going about their life, whereas I was sitting there throwing a tantrum, because I thought that, when I'm going to go there, that my child is going to let go of his life and he's going to come and sit with me. That was wrong on me. That was wrong of me to think like that. Just because I was all alone, I cannot expect him to let go of his life and come and sit with me. And this, again, my guide comes up and says, here you go again. You're throwing a tantrum. You're just being stubborn, and you're sticking to what you want, and you're not ready to let go. And I just looked at him, and I was sitting and sipping my tea, and I was looking around, and then I decided to just go through my phone for some time, and then I opened something to read, and I started reading, saying, okay, I need to occupy myself. And I while time, and then I started roaming around, and then I see a text from him saying that he's free and he's going to meet me for lunch. And I was happy. I said, okay. And I told him, I'm here. What am I going to come? And we kind of exchanged texts. And I was really happy about it. But in the whole process, if I have to go on day by day, I want to be boring you all with, my cry and my nonsense, which is really not needed. The point here is I'm talking about how difficult a change gets as you start moving ahead. And it became that much more difficult when his birthday came. He wanted to spend time with his friends who he had just made. So obviously I was not in the list of the top thing. It was his friends and his life in the university. It really shook me to my roots, because I realized things are changing rapidly. And that's when I realized the quicker I let go, the quicker I accept change, the better it is for me. And the better I accept it, the better I heal and make peace with it, the happier people around me are going to be. Otherwise, not only am I going to be unhappy, I was going to make my family back in Bangalore unhappy. I was going to make people in this city unhappy. I knew I'm just going to make everybody's life unhappy just because I was unhappy. and that is not something I wanted. And that is the first step I took towards the actual change. After I healed myself, sitting in Bangalore, sitting and working on myself, putting myself together, and I go into a new city all by myself to be with my child. When he was busy with his life, I just had to put everything together, bring everything together, and slowly, gradually, I started building myself up in that space as I started to let go and put things together. Now, I will continue in my maybe tomorrow, if possible, as to how I started doing it. But my first step after healing myself in accepting the change was acknowledging that I had to change. That was my first step in this entire process. So with that, in my this talk, I thank you all for those who've joined me. I thank all of you who have been following up on these series of change and also giving me positive feedback. And I also thank you all in advance for those of you who are going to be watching this video. Do put in your messages as to what would my next series be. Up until then, I thank you so much. I wish you a beautiful and a lovely day. Lots of blessings and light. Thank you so much. Namaste.